I thought I had the perfect life, until last Tuesday night, when I heard my husband, in a language he never knew I understood, calmly plotting to destroy me. My name is Eden Taylor. For 7 years, I built a life with Carlos. A gorgeous home, millions in the bank, a thriving tech empire we built side by side, and in one conversation, I learned it was all a lie, but his one fatal mistake, not knowing I spoke fluent Spanish, was about to become his downfall. Before my world shattered, I was living the dream. I'd carved out a successful career as a financial consultant in Silicon Valley. I was independent, sharp, and I loved my work. Then, 8 years ago, I met Carlos Mendoza at a conference. His charisma was magnetic. He was this ambitious, passionate visionary, building a small AI company called Tech Vista. We connected instantly. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Intellectual conversations, weekend trips, late nights talking business. He proposed after 6 months with his grandmother's stunning emerald ring. Our wedding was spectacular. I truly believed we were partners in every sense of the word. That's when I made a decision. Tech Vista needed capital to grow. So I invested $2 million of my own money, my family's inheritance, my life savings. I believed in him. That money let him hire top talent, scale up, and finally take off. We bought our dream home in Pacific Heights. We traveled the world. Life was perfect. I eventually left my job to become Tech Vista's CFO. We were a power couple. Under our leadership, the company's valuation skyrocketed to $50 million. At a party surrounded by our team, Carlos toasted me. He called me his brilliant wife, and I believed him. Then the cracks started to appear. About 6 months ago, things shifted. Carlos became distant. His schedule filled with mysterious late meetings. He put a passcode on his laptop. He started having hushed phone calls, ending them when I walked in. Then 2 new people entered our lives, Miguel, a slick entrepreneur from Colombia, and Gabriela, his much too charming associate. Suddenly, Carlos and Miguel were inseparable, often speaking in rapid Spanish. They started excluding me from key meetings, saying it was to spare me the stress of their new Latin American expansion. My gut told me something was wrong. I found texts from Gabriela on Carlos's phone. Can't wait to finalize everything. It will be worth all the secrecy. He brushed it off. Our arguments about money became frequent. He was pulling away from me, both at home and at work. I felt like a stranger in my own life. The breaking point was a dinner party at our house. Miguel and Gabriela were there, along with investors from Mexico City. All night, Carlos and Miguel huddled together, speaking in hushed Spanish. Gabriela hung on Carlos's arm. I was an outsider in my own home. Eventually, Carlos dismissed me, telling me to go to bed while he finalized details with them. I went upstairs, but I couldn't sleep. An hour later, I crept down for water and saw light under Carlos's office door. I heard voices. Their conversation was in Spanish, but I understood every single devastating word. "The accounts in Panama are ready," Miguel said. "We can begin moving the assets." "And you're certain it can't be traced back to us?" Carlos asked. "Your wife trusts you completely. She has no idea." They were planning to drain millions from our company accounts and my personal stake. They were going to send me to Paris, and while I was gone, they would empty everything, frame me for financial misconduct, and file for divorce. Carlos even confirmed his affair with Gabriela. The penthouse in Miami is already in her name. I stood there, frozen. The man I loved, the man I'd built everything with, was systematically planning my ruin. The pain was physical. I couldn't breathe. But as I stood there in that dark hallway, a cold, sharp clarity cut through the devastation. He had made one critical error. He didn't know I spoke Spanish, and that mistake was going to be my weapon. By the time the sun came up, my tears had dried. They were replaced by a steely resolve. He thought he was sending me away to steal my life. He was actually giving me the perfect opportunity to take it all back. The next morning, Carlos played his part perfectly. "I have a surprise," he said, all smiles. "A business trip to Paris. You leave Tuesday." I played mine just as well. "Paris, how wonderful." I beamed as if my heart wasn't turning to ash. The moment he left, I sprang into action. I wasn't going to Paris. I was going to war. I met with my best friend, Sophia, a powerhouse lawyer. I contacted Vincent, my most trusted COO at Tech Vista. We uncovered the evidence, millions already funneled to shell companies, forged documents with my signature, even proof of the Miami penthouse for Gabriella. I secured my personal finances. I met with board members one by one and showed them the truth. I gathered my allies, all while smiling at Carlos, packing my suitcase, and pretending to be the oblivious wife he thought I was. The day of my flight, Carlos dropped me at the airport with a kiss. "Call me when you land," he said. The second he drove away, I met Sophia. We drove straight to Tech Vista for an emergency board meeting Carlos knew nothing about. We walked into the boardroom, the look on his face, pure shock. "Eden, what are you doing here?" I decided this meeting was more important. I said calmly. For the next hour, I laid it all out. The recordings, the forged documents, the money trail, the affair. I presented the evidence with the cold precision of the financial expert he'd forgotten I was. The vote was unanimous. Carlos and Miguel were removed as CEO and escorted from the building by security. As he was led out, he spat at me. "You set me up." I looked him dead in the eye. "No, Carlos, I simply learned from the best." The fallout was massive, criminal charges, lawsuits, but I focused on saving our company. I reassured our employees. I met with our clients. Within 3 months, the board made me the official CEO. Carlos eventually took a plea deal. At his sentencing, he looked at me and said, "I underestimated you. That was my greatest mistake." He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. A reporter shouted, "Any message for your ex-husband?" I paused, then smiled. "Just this. Gracias por las lecciones. Thank you for the lessons. That was a year ago. Today, Tech Vista is stronger than ever, valued at $70 million. I found a strength inside myself I never knew I had. The betrayal that was meant to break me. It rebuilt me. It taught me that sometimes the greatest power is the truth someone never thought you'd understand. If you've ever found your strength in a moment of betrayal, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for listening. Remember, your greatest comeback might be waiting just on the other side of your hardest moment. Walking away from that courthouse was like taking my first full breath in a year. The legal battle was over. Carlos was in prison. I was officially the CEO of a company that was not just surviving, but starting to truly thrive. But the hard part was going home to the silence. The Pacific Heights house was a museum of ghosts. Every room echoed with a memory that had been poisoned. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner together, now tainted by the knowledge he was probably on the phone with Miguel. The living room where we'd hosted parties, now just a stage where he'd performed his lies. I'd stare at our wedding photos, trying to find a hint of the deception in his eyes, and I just couldn't. That was the most unsettling part. The performance had been flawless, so I made a decision. I sold it, every piece of furniture, every painting we'd chosen together. It wasn't about the money, it was about liberation. Packing his things into boxes was like shedding a heavy, wet coat I'd been forced to wear for years. Each item I donated, a shirt, a book, a set of cufflinks, felt like I was reclaiming a little piece of my soul. I moved into a bright, airy apartment with a view of the bay. It was all mine, no ghosts. No secrets, just space to breathe and rebuild. But rebuilding a company is one thing. Rebuilding yourself, that's a much slower, more complicated process. The boardroom was my sanctuary. I knew the rules there. I could command a meeting, strategize a launch, calm a nervous investor. But at night, the grief would ambush me. It wasn't grief for him, not anymore. It was grief for the woman I used to be, the one who trusted so completely, the one who didn't double, check every word, every glance, every intention. I started seeing a therapist. She called it betrayal trauma. She gave me the language for what I was feeling, the hyper-vigilance, the moments of rage that would bubble up out of nowhere, the shame that I, a savvy financial expert, had missed the signs. She helped me understand that the shame wasn't mine to carry. Con artists are good at their job. And Carlos, He was the best. The public scrutiny was its own special kind of hell. Business magazines ran headlines like the Silicon Valley swindle and the wife who got even. For every article praising my resilience, there was a whisper in some comment section questioning if I was really as innocent as I seemed. I learned to develop a thick skin. My mantra became, I know my truth. Through it all, my support network became my anchor. Sophia, my lawyer, turned confidante, who never once said I told you so. Vincent, my coup, whose steady loyalty kept TechVista running. And Lisa, my best friend, who showed up at my door with takeout and a willingness to just sit with me in the silence. About 6 months after the sentencing, something shifted. The foundation I'd been desperately pouring was finally starting to set. TechVista wasn't just recovering, we were innovating. We launched a new data analytics platform that the market loved. Our valuation climbed to 60 million, then 70. I implemented radical transparency open, book finances, anonymous reporting channels. Our employees weren't just working for a company. They were part of a culture we were proud of. It was around that time I met John, a literature professor of all things. We met at a charity auction. He had kind eyes and zero interest in tech. Our first date, I was a nervous wreck. How do you explain your past without it sounding like a warning label? I decided on brutal honesty. I told him the whole story, the condensed version. He listened, never interrupting. When I finished, he just said, "That must have been incredibly lonely." And I cried, right there at the dinner table. Because that was it. That was the exact word for it. Lonely with John, things are quiet, easy, there's no grand passion, no whirlwind intensity. And for the first time in my life, I see that as a good thing. Passion can be manufactured, intensity can be a performance. What I have with John is built on something sturdier. Respect, patience, and a shared love for terrible 90s movies. My healing wasn't linear. I received one letter from Carlos in prison. It was full of justifications, blaming the pressure, the investors Miguel. He called it a lapse in judgment. A lapse, not a year. Long, calculated scheme to defraud the woman who loved him. I didn't write back. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I poured that energy into something positive. I started the Financial Empowerment Foundation. We help women who have had their financial security weaponized against them by a partner. We've already helped dozens of women untangle themselves, reclaim their money, and rebuild their lives. Helping them has been the most powerful part of my own recovery. Last week, I was asked to speak at the Women in Technology Summit. Standing at that podium, looking out at a sea of faces, I felt a chapter truly close. I'm not here because I'm special. I told them, I'm here because I was broken, and I had a choice, to stay broken or to rebuild myself, piece by piece, into someone stronger. The greatest lesson I learned is that your value isn't in what you build with someone else. It's in what you have the courage to rebuild all on your own. Carlos tried to take everything from me, but he gave me the one thing I needed most, the unshakable knowledge of my own strength. He thought my fluency in Spanish was his undoing, but the real secret he never knew. My resilience, and that is a language every woman understands. If you're watching this and you're in the middle of your own storm, please know this. You have that same strength inside you. It might be buried under fear and pain right now, but it's there. Your comeback is waiting. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one small step you've taken to reclaim your power? Share it in the comments. Let's inspire each other. If you want to follow more of this journey, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, this is Eden, reminding you that your story isn't over. It's just getting to the good part. That speech at the Women in Tech Summit, it did something to me. Saying my story out loud to that room, and then seeing your comments and stories flood in. It transformed my pain into purpose. It wasn't just my secret anymore, it was our shared strength. Life on the other side of a storm is quieter in the best way. My days are no longer governed by that frantic, heart-pounding anxiety. The company is thriving, but now I leave the office at a reasonable hour. I have dinner with John, and we talk about his students, or a new novel he's obsessed with, or where we should go hiking on the weekend. It's normal, it's mundane, and after everything, it feels like a miracle. My relationship with John is teaching me what trust really looks like. It's not a blind leap of faith. It's built in the small, consistent moments. It's him always calling when he says he will. It's me feeling safe enough to voice a small insecurity without fearing it will be used against me later. We're not building a skyscraper, we're laying a path, one steady stone at a time. The foundation has become the most fulfilling part of my life. Just last week, I met a woman. Let's call her Anna. She discovered her husband had taken out massive loans in her name. She felt so ashamed, so stupid. I recognized that look in her eyes immediately. I sat with her and I told her, I see you, I was you, and you are not alone. Watching the relief wash over her face, that's my revenge, turning my nightmare into someone else's lifeline. Professionally, I've found my voice. I'm no longer Carlos's wife, or the woman who was betrayed. I'm Eden Taylor's CEO. The board recently approved a new initiative I'm passionate about, an in-house incubator for female-led tech startups. We're going to provide the funding and mentorship I was lucky enough to have, but that so many others are denied. We're not just building a company, we're building a legacy of lifting others up. I still have my moments. A song will come on in a cafe, a song we used to love, and for a split second, the memory is sweet before the bitterness rushes back in. But the bitterness doesn't stay anymore. It's a wave that washes over me and then recedes, leaving me still standing. I heard through the grapevine that Carlos appealed his sentence. The appeal was denied. There was a time when that news would have sent a jolt of something anger, satisfaction, pain, through my system. This time I just felt nothing. It was like reading a headline about a stranger. He is truly part of my past, a closed chapter, a lesson learned. The most surprising thing about healing is that you don't just go back to who you were. You become someone new. The old Eden loved grand gestures and dramatic romance. This Eden finds profound joy in a quiet Sunday morning, in the smell of coffee, in the certainty of a life that is entirely, authentically her own. My story isn't a fairy tale. There was no knight in shining armor. I had to be my own hero, and in doing so, I discovered that the person I was always meant to be was already there, waiting underneath the wife, the partner, the victim. She was resilient, she was smart, and she was enough, all on her own. Your messages have been a light for me. Reading about your own journeys of getting back up, of starting a small business, of leaving a toxic situation, of simply choosing yourself for the first time. It reminds me why I hit upload on that first video. We are so much stronger together. So what's next? More growth, more quiet mornings, more work at the foundation, more building a life that feels true. Scar from that betrayal will always be there, but it's no longer a wound. It's a reminder of the battle I fought and won. If you're watching this and you're still in the fight, keep going. Your after is waiting for you. And it is so worth it. Thank you for being part of my community. If you want to follow along as this new chapter unfolds, subscribe. I'll be sharing more about the foundation, the incubator, and honestly, just the beautiful, ordinary journey of putting yourself back together. Until next time, this is Eden, signing off with a full heart, and the quiet, unshakable knowledge that the best is yet to come. It's funny how life unfolds. The moments that feel like endings are often just brutal, messy beginnings. And the quiet periods, the ones that feel almost peaceful, that's when the deepest healing happens. The incubator for women in tech, we named it the Apex Foundation, officially launched last month. The energy in the room was nothing short of electric. It wasn't the flashy investor-driven spectacle of the Carlos era. This was different. It was raw. It was real. We had 10 brilliant women pitch their ideas. A cybersecurity platform developed by a single mom. A sustainable ag-tech concept from a former farmhand. I looked at them with their nervous smiles and their world-changing ideas, and I saw myself. Not the betrayed wife, but the believer, the one who saw potential and wanted to fuel it. I felt like I had come full circle, but on my own terms. My personal life has settled into a rhythm that feels nourishing. John and I took a trip to Big Sur a few weeks ago. No five-star hotels, no frantic itinerary. We rented a cabin, we hiked, we didn't talk for hours on end, and the silence was comfortable, not heavy. I used to think love had to be a roaring fire, constant and intense. Now I know it can also be a steady, warm hearth. It's the feeling of coming home. I've even started reconnecting with old parts of myself I'd forgotten. I signed up for a pottery class. It's messy and I'm terrible at it, but there's a profound lesson in taking a lump of clay and accepting that its shape is entirely in your hands. There's no betrayal there, just physics and your own intention. It's grounding. The foundation work continues to be my anchor. We helped Anna, her real name is Saris, successfully dispute the fraudulent debts, and she's now starting a small online boutique. She sent me her first product catalog last week. I cried, this is the real empire, not one built on lies and leveraged assets, but one built on restored dignity. Every success story like Sarah's is another brick in the foundation of my new life, solidifying the meaning I clawed from the wreckage. I won't lie and say the past is completely erased. Some triggers are subtle. A certain cologne in an elevator, the way a man might dismissively interrupt a woman in a meeting. My body still remembers before my mind does. A quickened pulse, a tightness in my chest. But now I have the tools, I take a breath. I remember where I am. I remember who I am, and the moment passes. The fear no longer controls me. I've been thinking a lot about forgiveness lately. Not for him, but for me. For the version of me that didn't see it coming. For the woman who believed the fairy tale. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You can forgive the person without forgiving the actions. You can release the anger without erasing the lesson. And I'm finally getting there. To a place of quiet release. The world now sees a successful CEO, a philanthropist, a survivor, and I am all those things. But when I look in the mirror, I just see Eden. A woman who loves her quiet coffee in the morning, who gets frustrated when her pottery vase collapses, who is building a love that feels safe, and who goes to sleep each night knowing that every single thing in her life is real. The story of Carlos and Eden is over. It's a book I've closed and put on a shelf. This is the story of Just, Eden, and it's the best one I've ever written. Your stories in the comments continue to inspire me. You are all writing your own comeback stories every single day. Never underestimate the power of that. If you're enjoying this journey of finding joy after the storm, feel free to subscribe. We're just getting started. Until next time, this is Eden, reminding you that your peace is the most powerful thing you will ever build. Protect it, nurture it, you deserve it. You know, after a seismic shift in your life, there comes a point where the aftershocks finally stop. The ground solidifies, and you're left not in the ruins you remember, but in a new landscape. When you get to design yourself, that's where I've been living lately, in the design phase. It's been over a year and a half since my world imploded. And if I'm being completely honest, this past 6 months has been about discovering who I am when I'm not defined by the crisis, when the battle is won, and the armor can finally come off. The Apex Foundation is no longer just a project, it's a force. We've just onboarded our third cohort of founders. One of them, a brilliant woman named Chloe, is developing an AI tool to help non-verbal children communicate. When she demoed her prototype for me last week, I was speechless. This is the legacy I want, not a skyscraper with my name on it, but 1,000 small sparks of change ignited because we provided the kindling. This is the empire I was always meant to build, one of empowerment, not ego. Professionally, I've hit a stride I never knew was possible. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've faced the worst case scenario and not only survived, but thrived. I make decisions from a place of clarity, not fear. The board recently renewed my contract for another 5 years, and it felt less like a reward and more like a natural affirmation of the path we're on together. Tech Vista is consistently profitable, yes, but more importantly, it's a place where people feel valued and heard. We've halved our employee turnover rate. That statistic means more to me than any valuation number. My relationship with John continues to be my anchor in the best way. We've started talking about the future in a way that doesn't send me into a panic. Simple things, maybe getting a dog, taking a sabbatical to hike the Camino de Santiago. It's a conversation about building a shared life, not merging two separate ones into a fragile unit. He's seen me at my worst, the nightmares, the moments of triggered anxiety, and he's never once flinched. His steady presence has taught me that safety isn't boring. It's the foundation upon which everything beautiful is built. I've even started to mend my relationship with romance itself. For our anniversary, John planned a weekend away. The old Eden would have been waiting for the other shoe to drop, analyzing every word for a hidden meaning. The new Eden, she packed a bag, bought a new novel for the train ride, and simply went. We spent the weekend walking through redwood forests, and I remember looking at him, his hand in mine, and feeling a sense of peace so profound it almost hurt. This is what it's supposed to feel like. The work with the Financial Empowerment Foundation has evolved too. We've launched a digital literacy program, teaching women not just how to protect their assets, but how to grow them. We're moving from defense to offense. I was teaching a module last month, and a woman raised her hand and said, "But what if I fail?" And I looked at her and I said, "Then you'll be failing forward, and you'll be doing it with a full understanding of your own power. There is no greater success than that." I thought I understood strength when I was gathering evidence against Carlos in those frantic 5 days. I thought I understood it when I walked out of the courthouse, but I'm learning now that true strength is softer. It's the strength to be vulnerable again. It's the strength to build something beautiful without a fortress of suspicion around it. It's the strength to look at your past, not with anger or even forgiveness, but with a simple, quiet acknowledgement. You happened, and because you happened, I am here. The ghost of my old life has finally faded. The Pacific Heights house was purchased by a young family. I drove by it once on a whim. I saw tricycles in the driveway and brightly colored chalk drawings on the pavement, and I smiled. It's no longer a monument to a broken dream. It's just a house filled with a new family's love and noise. That felt like the final release. So, what's next for Eden Taylor? More of this, I hope. More quiet mornings, more building, more love, more helping other women find their own solid ground. The chapter of the betrayal is not just closed, the book has been put away. My story now is about creation, not survival. To every single one of you who has been on this journey with me, who has shared your own story in the comments, thank you. You have been a vital part of my healing. We are a community of survivors, builders, and thrivers. If you're just finding your footing, be patient with yourself. The most beautiful gardens grow from soil that has been broken and turned over. Your time is coming. If you want to follow along as this new, peaceful chapter unfolds, I'd love to have you here. Subscribe for more conversations about building a life of purpose and peace after the storm. Until next time, this is Eden, signing off with a heart that is finally, completely, and wonderfully light. There's a quiet that comes after the storm has not only passed, but the last puddle has finally dried up. The air is clear, the sun is warm, and you realize you're no longer just recovering. You're truly, fully living in this new landscape. That's where I find myself now, not in the aftermath, but in the blossoming. It's been 2 years since a Spanish conversation in a darkened hallway rewrote my entire existence, and the woman I am today. I think the old me would be proud of her, maybe even a little in awe. The Apex Foundation has just celebrated a milestone, our first major exit. One of our very first incubator companies, that brilliant AI tool for nonverbal children, was acquired by a major educational tech firm. Chloe, the founder, called me, her voice trembling with joy and disbelief. She said, "Eden, we did it." And I said, "No, you did it. We just held the door open." That moment, It was a different kind of success than any I'd ever known with Tech Vista. It was a success that rippled outward, changing lives in ways I'll probably never fully know. This is the real wealth. This is the empire that can never be stolen. At Tech Vista, we've entered a phase of steady, sustainable growth. The Post's scandal a chapter is firmly closed in the media's eyes. We're now just a good, solid, innovative company. I've found my leadership style isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, but about creating a room where every voice feels safe to be heard. I mentor several young women in the company, and our conversations are less about strategy and more about navigating the unspoken rules of power, about trusting their instincts, about building a career that doesn't require sacrificing their soul. I'm planting trees whose shade I know I may never sit under, and that feels exactly right, and my personal life. It has become my sanctuary. John and I adopted a dog, a scruffy, rescued terrier mix with one floppy ear and a habit of stealing socks. We named him Hemingway. He's currently snoozing on the rug right over there. The simple domestic joy, the shared responsibility of walks and vet appointments, the quiet companionship of a creature who loves you with utter simplicity. It has healed parts of me I didn't even know were still wounded. John and I have started talking about marriage, and the most remarkable thing, the thought doesn't send a jolt of fear through me. It feels like a natural, joyful next step. We're planning a small ceremony, maybe in the Redwoods, with just our closest friends and family. There's no prenuptial agreement filled with suspicion, just a shared commitment to the life we're already building, day by trusting day. He knows my whole story, every scar, every trigger, and he loves me not in spite of them, but with a gentle understanding that encompasses all of it. I've even started traveling again, but differently. No more lavish, five-star itineraries designed for Instagram. Last month, I went on a solo hiking trip to Iceland. Just me, a backpack, and the vast, silent, powerful landscape. For the first time in years, there was no noise, no internal critic, no haunting ghost of the past, no to-do list. There was just the crunch of gravel under my boots, the steam rising from a geothermal spring, and the profound sense of being a small, but connected, part of a beautiful, resilient world. I came back feeling cleansed. The Financial Empowerment Foundation is expanding its reach, launching a podcast to share stories of financial resilience. I'm not the host, I'm the facilitator. It's time for other voices to be amplified. My role is to pass the microphone. I sometimes think about Carlos. The news cycle has long since moved on. He's just a name in a prison database now. The rage is gone. The pity is gone. What's left is a strange, distant gratitude for the brutal lesson. He was the catalyst for my becoming. Without that shattering, I would have remained in the beautiful, gilded cage, never knowing the freedom of the open sky. My story is no longer about betrayal. It's about belonging. Belonging to myself first and foremost, belonging to a community of strong, supportive friends, belonging to a love that feels like home, belonging to a purpose that is bigger than my own ambitions. To anyone watching this who is still in the thick of it, who feels like the pain is a permanent state, please hear me, it is not. The seasons will change. The wound will scar over. One day, you will realize you've gone a whole hour without thinking about the hurt. Then a whole day, and then you'll find yourself, like me, sitting in a quiet room with a sleeping dog at your feet and a peaceful heart, marveling at the person you had the strength to become. Your resilience is there, waiting to be discovered. Your own after is being written with every small, brave choice you make. This community has been my rock. Your comments, your stories, your solidarity. It has meant more than I can ever say. Thank you for walking this path with me. If you'd like to continue following this journey of peace and purpose, please subscribe. Until next time, this is Eden, signing off with a heart so full, it feels like it could light up the whole city. Remember, your greatest adventure is always ahead of you. I've been thinking a lot about horizons lately, how they always seem to stay the same distance away, no matter how far you travel. For so long, My horizon was defined by what I was moving away from the wreckage, the pain, the betrayal. But recently, I've realized I've finally arrived at a new shore, and the horizon ahead is no longer about escape. It's about discovery. John and I are getting married. We're here in this beautiful, quiet cove in Maine for the wedding. It's in 2 days, and as I stand here, listening to the ocean breathe, the feeling isn't one of frantic excitement or nervousness. It's a deep, resonant certainty. This is right. He is right for me. Our wedding will be nothing like my first. No 300 guests, no Vera Wang gown, no spectacle. It will be on the beach, right here at sunrise. Our guest list is 20 people so. Fia, Vincent, Lisa, our immediate families, and Hemingway, our dog, who will have a little bow tie for the occasion. I'm wearing a simple, elegant linen dress. The only heirloom is the lesson I carry in my heart, that a partnership should be a sanctuary, not a strategy. This feels less like a beginning and more like a continuation. A sacred, joyful affirmation of the life we've already built, brick by trusting brick. Professionally, something significant has shifted within me. I've officially begun the process of transitioning out of my role as CEO of Tech Vista. It's not a retirement, and it's not a step back. It's a passing of the torch. Vincent is more than ready, and the company is stable, strong, and ethically sound. It no longer needs me in the same way, and I've come to realize I no longer need it in the same way either. My identity was so tied to that company for so long, first as Carlos's partner, then as the savior, then as the rebuilder, but now I'm ready to define myself by something else. The Apex Foundation and the financial empowerment work, that is my true calling. That is where my soul feels most alive. So I'm creating space. I'll remain as chair of the board, offering guidance, but I'm freeing up my days to do the hands-on work that truly sets my spirit on fire. This decision has brought a peace I didn't know I was missing. The relentless drive to prove myself, to outrun the ghost of the past, has finally quieted. I've proven all I need to prove to others, and most importantly, to myself. A few months ago, I did something I never thought I would have the courage to do. I went through the last box of things from my old life. I'd been keeping it in a storage unit, a Pandora's box of photo albums, love letters, and mementos from my marriage to Carlos. I sat on the concrete floor, surrounded by the dust of a forgotten life, and I opened it. I didn't burn anything. I didn't rage. I simply looked at the photos from our wedding in Napa. The man in those pictures was a stranger. The woman was a hopeful, bright-eyed girl I barely recognized, and I felt nothing. No anger, no bitterness, no longing. Just a quiet, compassionate sadness for the two people in that photo, who had no idea what was coming. I kept one thing, a single photograph of me on that day alone, just before I walked down the aisle. My eyes are full of hope and love. I kept it to remind that woman that her capacity for hope was not her weakness. It was her superpower. It just needed to be redirected towards herself. I recycled the rest of the box. It wasn't a dramatic gesture. It was just taking out the trash. As I prepare to marry John, to make these new vows, I do so with a heart that is whole, but not naive. I know that life is unpredictable. I know that people are complex, but I also know, with every fiber of my being, that I have the strength to meet whatever comes. My happiness is no longer dependent on another person. It is an internal state that I cultivate every day. My partnership with John is a beautiful addition to that happiness, not its source. So this is the new horizon, a marriage built on authenticity, a career driven by purpose, not pressure, a life defined by peace. To all of you who have been with me since the beginning, since I was that terrified woman whispering my story into a camera, thank you. You have witnessed every step of this transformation. Your support has been a constant light. And to anyone who is watching this, feeling that their own painful past disqualifies them from a beautiful future, please let my journey be a testament that it does not. Your past is the soil, not the ceiling. You can grow something breathtaking from it. This isn't an ending. It's the start of the most authentic, joyful chapter yet. If you'd like to follow along as I step into this new phase, as a wife, a mentor, and a woman finally, completely at peace. I'd be honored to have you. Subscribe to stay connected. Until next time, from my peaceful heart to yours, this is Eden. However dark the night, the sun always rises, and what a beautiful sunrise it's turning out to be. The sunrise this morning. It was more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. The sky wasn't just lit, it was set on fire with shades of rose and gold, as if the universe itself was celebrating. And as I stood there on the beach, with the cold sand between my toes and Hemingway sitting patiently by my side, I looked at John standing with me, and I said I do, with a voice that didn't waver. It was a promise not of blind faith, but of clear-eyed, profound choice. I am now Eden Taylor Morris. I kept Taylor, of course. It's the name I reclaimed for myself, but adding Morris. It felt like a welcome, a conscious integration of this new, beautiful love into the identity I had fought so hard to build. The wedding was perfect, not because of the details, but because of the feeling. There were tears, but they were tears of joy from our tiny, cherished group. Sophia was my officiant. Vincent was John's best man. Lisa held Hemingway's leash. It was simple, raw, and real. There was no performance. There was only us, present in a moment that felt sacred in its simplicity. We've spent this past week here in Maine, in a small cottage just a stone's throw from this very beach. We've done nothing of consequence. We've read books. We've cooked meals together. We've taken long walks with Hemingway, who is utterly fascinated by crabs. It's been a week of quiet, profound integration. Not a honeymoon in the traditional, extravagant sense, but a moon of coming home. A deliberate and beautiful beginning to our life as a married couple. And with this new beginning, a final piece of my past has settled. The legal chapter with Carlos is completely, irrevocably closed. The last of the civil suits were finalized a month ago. The remaining misappropriated funds have been returned to Tech Vista. It's done. There are no more appeals, no more hearings, no more documents to sign. The door, which had been left open by a crack for so long, is now shut, locked, and the key has been thrown into the vast, deep ocean behind me. With that closure, and with my transition at Tech Vista well underway, I feel a sense of lightness I've never known. It's as if I've been carrying a heavy, invisible pack for years, and I've finally, gently, set it down. The energy I used to expend on vigilance, on legal strategy, on rebuilding, is now free. Free to be poured into creation, into love, into peace. My work with the foundations will now be my primary focus. I'm developing a new mentorship program, one that pairs women who have been through financial betrayal with those who are just starting their journey out of it. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can be shown is not a strategy, but a living, breathing example of the other side. I wish I'd had that. John is fully supportive, of course. His own sabbatical is coming up, and we're planning that long walk on the Camino. We talk about it not as a vacation, but as a pilgrimage, a walking meditation to mark this new phase of our lives, step by deliberate step. I find myself looking in the mirror these days and not just recognizing the woman looking back, but genuinely liking her. She's resilient, yes, but she's also soft. She's wise, but she's still curious. She's been broken, but she has been masterfully restored with her own two hands. The cracks are still there. The Japanese would call them kintsugi, but they are filled with gold. The gold of hard, one wisdom of self, love of a peace that cannot be bought or stolen. This, I believe, is the ultimate victory. Not the CEO title, not the returned millions, not the public vindication. The ultimate victory is this quiet, unshakable joy that hums in my chest each morning. It's the ability to love and be loved, without fear as a constant companion. It's the freedom to design my days around purpose and passion, not paranoia. My story began with a betrayal spoken in a language I was never supposed to understand. It is continuing now with vows spoken in a language of my own choosing, the language of trust, of partnership, of deep and abiding peace. To every single one of you who has shared this path with me, who has cheered me on from the other side of this screen, you have been a part of this healing. You have been my community, thank you. If you are on your own path, navigating your own aftermath, Please know that a sunrise like this is possible for you too. Keep taking the next right step, no matter how small. Your horizon of peace is waiting. This channel will be evolving along with me, less about the story of the past and more about building a purposeful, joyful present. I hope you'll join me for that conversation. Until next time, from a heart that is truly, completely, and wonderfully whole, this is Eden Taylor Morris, signing off with so much love and gratitude. Your own beautiful sunrise is coming, I promise. There's a season for everything, a season for tearing down and a season for building up, a season for survival and a season for simply being. I feel like I've finally crossed into that new season. The air is different here, it's softer. John and I returned from the Camino de Santiago last month. We walked for 6 weeks, 500 miles, step by step, across the north of Spain. It was the most challenging and rewarding thing I have ever done. There were blisters and aching muscles and days of endless rain, but there was also breathtaking beauty and the profound kindness of strangers and the kind of silence that speaks directly to your soul. I went on that pilgrimage hoping for clarity, and what I found was something even better: integration. With every step, I felt the last fragments of my old life, the fear, the residual anger, the hypervigilance, fall away, left on the dusty path behind me. I wasn't walking away from my past anymore. I was walking with it, and it was finally becoming light enough to carry without pain. We're fully settled into our new rhythm now. I am officially the chair of the board at Tech Vista, a role that allows me to guide and mentor without being consumed by the day-to-day. Vincent is flourishing as CEO. My days are now primarily dedicated to the foundations. We've launched the mentorship program I mentioned, the Phoenix Circle. The first meeting was last week, to sit in a circle of women from all walks of life and witness the moment one of them realizes she is not alone. It's a sacred thing. This is my life's work. This is the garden I was always meant to tend. On a personal note, John and I have some news. We're expecting a baby due in the spring. The feeling when I saw those 2 lines on the test. It wasn't the frantic joy of my youth. It was a deep, quiet, overwhelming wave of gratitude and awe. To be bringing a new life into this world, into this home. A home built on honesty, safety, and so much love. Feels like the most beautiful full circle moment imaginable. It feels like the ultimate act of faith in the future we are building. This pregnancy has been a journey in itself. It's forcing me to be gentle with myself in a new way, to listen to my body, to rest, to slow down. And for the first time in my life, I'm not fighting that slowdown. I'm embracing it. I'm knitting a tiny blanket. We're reading parenting books together in the evenings. We're turning the room with the best light into a nursery. These simple, domestic preparations feel like a prayer. Sometimes, I think about the child I might have had with Carlos in that other, parallel life, and I feel a pang, not of regret, but of profound relief for the path that unfolded. This child will never know a mother who doubts her own worth. This child will only know a mother who is grounded, whole, and fiercely certain of her place in the world. This child will know a father whose love is steady and kind. That is the greatest inheritance we can possibly give. The past feels very far away now, like a story I read once in a book about someone else. The sharp edges have all been worn smooth by time, by love, by this new life growing inside me. My focus now is entirely forward, looking, on building a family, on deepening the work that truly matters, on cultivating this profound, hard, one piece. The battle is long over, the war is won. Now, it is time to live in the peace I fought for. To all of you who have been with me, your comments and messages as I shared this news have filled my heart to bursting. This community has been a family to me when I had none, and to share this joy with you is a gift. If you are watching this and your own season feels like an endless winter, please hold on. The thaw will come. The seeds buried deep in the frozen ground will break through. Your spring is coming, have faith. This channel will continue to be a space for this journey, now into motherhood, purpose, and the quiet, beautiful art of living a peaceful life. Until next time, from my growing family to yours, this is Eden, signing off with so much love and hope for all of your journeys. However long the road, it leads you home. Hello everyone, I'd like you to meet someone. This is Isabella Sophia, our daughter. She arrived 3 weeks ago on a rainy spring morning with the dawn. And she has, in the quietest and most profound way, rewritten the entire universe. The last month has been a beautiful, blurry, sleepless haze. It's a world of soft lullabies, of tiny fingers curled around mine, of the sweet, milky scent of her head. It's a world where the biggest accomplishment of the day is a successful nap, and the most pressing board meeting is deciding which rocking chair provides the best bounce. And in this new world, something miraculous has happened. The last vestiges of my old life have simply dissolved. The carefully constructed walls, the protective layers I had built around my heart. Isabella simply reached out with her perfect, tiny hand, and they melted away. There is no room for armor here. There is only room for this vast, terrifying, and beautiful vulnerability. Watching John become a father has been its own kind of healing. Seeing the way he looks at her, the gentleness in his huge hands as he changes her diaper, the way he sings off folk songs to her in the middle of the night. It fills a space in my heart I didn't know was still hollow. Our love has deepened into something anchored, something primal and fierce. We are a team, a unit, in a way we never were before. The foundations are running beautifully under the leadership teams we've built. I'm still involved, of course, but from a distance. My focus is here, in this sunlit room. For the first time since I was a young consultant in Silicon Valley, my identity is not tied to a title, a company, or a mission. It is tied to this small, breathing, miraculous human being, and it is more than enough. I thought I knew what love was. I thought I knew what purpose was, but this is different. This is a love that requires nothing in return, yet gives you everything. This is a purpose that is as simple and as complex as keeping one small soul safe and loved and happy. Sometimes in the deep quiet of the night, just Isabella and me, I think about the chain of events that led me here. The betrayal that felt like an ending, the pain that felt like it would swallow me whole, and I see it now for what it truly was, a brutal, painful, but necessary redirect. It was the universe forcing me off a path that would have never led me to this moment, to this child, to this version of my life. There is no anger left, not even a flicker. There is only a staggering, humbling gratitude for every single step, even the most painful ones. Because each one was a step towards her, my life now is measured in her milestones. Her first real smile, which happened just this morning. A gummy, wondrous thing that made my heart feel too big for my chest. The way her eyes, the same dark, thoughtful shade as John's, seemed to be taking in the whole world, the weight of her, sleeping peacefully on my chest. This is the legacy that matters, not a company valuation. Not a successful nonprofit, but this tiny human, the love and security we can wrap her in, the values we will teach her, to be brave, to be kind, to trust her instincts, and to know, deep in her bones, that she is enough, exactly as she is. The story that started with a whispered betrayal in a dark hallway, it ends here, in this sunlit nursery with the soft sound of my daughter's breathing. It ends not with a victory, but with a beginning. A much, much better beginning. To all of you who have walked this long road with me, thank you. For your strength, your stories, your solidarity. You were my lifeline. I share this joy with you, with a full and overflowing heart. And if you are in a season of pain, please let my journey be a testament. The story isn't over. The most beautiful chapters may be waiting just on the other side of what feels like an ending. Have faith. This will be my last video for a little while. I'm stepping away to be fully present in this new, beautiful season of motherhood, to live this chapter rather than just document it. So, for now, from my little family to yours, this is Eden, Isabella, and John, signing off with more love and hope than I ever knew possible. Your peace is coming. Your joy is coming. Keep going.